I'm about to take the gearbox and transfer case out of this NAS spec 110, but for people who are not in North America or are not familiar with these things, let's point out a few annoying features. The most annoying is the steering wheel, like a TD5 one. I hate them because when you're trying to spin it round, your elbow's always in on this daft pad. Next daft thing. Buzzers, bells. North American vehicles have to have a thing in to tell you when the key's in. I know when the key's in, you know. Right, another annoying thing is the seat belts. Oh, that freaking thing! The seat belts. The seat base has got a padding. I think it tells you to put the seat belt on. That's annoying. I'm going to have some fun taking this out because I just sort of realised here that we've got diff lock things in. I've got to take the cubby box out. You see, I don't have to take the cubby box out. Let me explain. But I find it easier being on my own to take out take off the cover off the gearbox and then drop the gearbox out as sort of at an angle. But I take off the diff lock lever first, as well as the shifter, because it makes life so much easier when you're on your own, because the top of the shifter usually hits right on the bottom of the seat base. It's a really annoying. If you have somebody else, you can sort of wiggle the gearbox in from underneath and get somebody else to pull the lever, but unfortunately I can't. So I like a quiet life, so I'm going to pull that out. I don't really know what I'm going to get up to with wiring. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But as I was going to say, there's switches here, there's diff locks, there's switches there. I only hope they've put a multi-plug on it. Well, we shall find out. Let's get started. First thing I'm going to do, disconnect the battery. Oh, I was wrong. Look, it hasn't got a seatbelt thing in. Has it got a seatbelt switch in it? No. I don't, so how does it know when the seatbelt's on? Never mind. So let's get started, and we'll pull out. We'll disconnect the battery. You know, it's kind of strange that they go to all this length of putting winches and all these electrics on, but they don't put a battery isolator. That's the first thing I sort of put in a vehicle, is a battery isolator, because they are so difficult sometimes to get the seats in and out, especially if you've got those big, like, insulated mats that they put on now. Trying to get this cover off is a bit of a pain, so it's so much easier if you put an isolator at the front and knock off the battery. That's just one of my gripes. Right, let's get on with it now. So I've got the carpet out. I'm decided to leave the cubby box in. You'll probably understand as I go along doing this vehicle I'll chop and change my mind, but it's more work, and I'm going to try and work around it. I usually like to take the cubby boxes out. Again, lots of wires. Just want to draw your attention that the floor screws on this side have been put in properly. Even though they're old, we're going to replace them all anyway. It doesn't really matter, all the fixings. However, when we look at the other side, you'll see something different. I'm not sure if the light's bright enough to see, but there's holes on the floor in the footwell under there, right the way across. So this is why we're taking the floor out, so we can get to that and weld it. And this is why we've got to take the AC out as well, because we can't get in. But some bright spark has used carriage bolts to hold the floor down. Well, that's a great idea, but what they've done is they've put the floor over the top of the tunnel, so I can't even get the tunnel out. Wow, what a carry on. So anyway, we have to replace these anyway, but that's going to be a lot of fun trying to get those out. You see, a lot of people put these things in when they're new, these like carriage bolts and nuts and bolts and things like that, and they just spin them up and give them a nip with a spanner. Well, what they don't realise is that, you know, 10-15 years down the road, when you want to take these off, for example, they're all rusted up, and like these carriage bolts, there's nothing to hold on the heads. I don't know. I don't really want to grind them off, but well, we'll see. Still, adds up, doesn't it? So let's see what we can do. Oops, I think somebody shot me. Well, I've been about 2.5 hours on this job and I still haven't got the gearbox out. Usually I'd have had them out by now. I've only just got the bonnet off. The thing is, when I take the floor, I'm taking the floor out because I need to do some welding and some repairs to the footwell. Well, as you saw, the bolts were an absolute nightmare to get off. So I ended up using a grinder, a die grinder and an air chisel to get the bolts off. They were a nightmare. So I got those off, and then there's an air conditioning unit underneath. Well, I thought I'll just take that out as well while I'm here. What a carry on to get that out. You see, the North American spec vehicles have a bar going across the front of the window to tie the roll cage together. Okay, so you can't take the bonnet up and lift it up as you would normally. You need to tilt it back a bit further. So you need to take the bar off. In order to take the bar off, you've got to take the snorkel off. And then, once you've got the snorkel off, you have to battle with all the extra pipes that's been put in there, and all the wires pulling those away, to get the air cleaner out. Once you've got the air cleaner out, then you can get to the two bolts, or the two couplings that take off the air conditioning pipes. So, I'm going to get back onto this, and hopefully, the next update, I should be able to get the AC unit out, and also the tunnel, get the tunnel cover off. Then we can lift it up and start to tinker around underneath. I hope. But you never know what we're going to meet. The problem is, like I said before, there's been so many accessories and extra wires and this, that and the other. We're battling around where I'm going to be putting all the, moving things. Like, if you remember, it had that shifter hand throttle type thing on the gear stick. Well, they've put that up through the gator, which means usually I throw the gear stick in the back of the car. Well, now I'm going to hang it up somewhere because that's still on the cable. So it's all little things like that that's really annoying. Anyway, back to work. So, after a royal mess about, I got the floor out and the tunnel. Oh man, I don't know. But when I took the air conditioning out of the other side, there was a bracket right between the kick plate and it was on the back bulkhead, but there was only about this much room to get into it, and of course it was a self-tapping screw. And I couldn't get into it. My longest screwdriver, I could only just turn the head. So I had a bit of thinking about it, and what came to the rescue? Well, this set we've used before, put one of these, I think it was this little chap here, put it onto an air impact and just give it hell. Because naturally it was all rusted up and it wouldn't come out, it'd strip the head off the Phillips. But that got it out. So that was a good tool, and it's a good thing to have. Can't have enough good tools. Talking of which, I'm now going to use this bad boy on the footwells just to see how bad they are. This is a needle scaler. They're sort of for taking rust off and chipping bricks and things like this. Now this is a nice little compact one. You can get them to go onto an air chisel, but I wanted something that would go in, how do we say, bloody hoses everywhere now. I wanted something that was a bit more compact and a little bit better quality. So I think I paid about $130 for that, which is kind of expensive. But it is an Astro Pneumatics one, model 4320. Now I have reduced the air. I'm on £130 in my shop and I don't want to bust this. So I've reduced it because once you see it working, you'll understand why you just don't want too much air. So let's have a look. Let's have a play. Right, so there is a footwell. I hope this is going to work because I want to try and get in here at the same time. We're going to try and marmalise it. Whoa! That's pretty good. I bet you haven't got a blowgun kicking about. Just a second, I've got one over here. Right. Let's blow that out of the way. We'll mind our eyes. And you're supposed to wear goggles with that thing, by the way. Now you can see how bad it is. These holes weren't, you couldn't see these holes at the top before, so we know that's thin, but I knocked it around the top a little bit and it was quite solid. Whoa, God, I'll get this right one day. So let's go and have a play with the other side. So you can see why I had to take the AC out. I hope you can see what's happening to this bit here. Right, wait a minute. You can see all the rust coming out of that panel. Whoa, that made a hole. This is only on £40. Well, it's certainly got the loose off. As you can see there, we've got to repair that. Interesting, eh? But still, we know where we are, we know what to order. Notoriously bad problems, the bottoms of the footwells here. They were double skinned with a rib on the inside. Now the old series, they were just a fairly thickish piece of metal with ribs stamped into the floor. But in their infinite wisdom, they made this double skinned right behind the wheel. Of course, water and everything gets kicked into there and causes them to do that. If you notice, they always rust out from the bottom, because it's the water that's been sat on the footwell, and also the water that's got in between and gradually got to the bottom of there and started to rust it out. Fortunately, this isn't rusty at the very top up here, so I'm not going to put a full footwell in. I think I'll just put a partial one in, but it means doing a lot more work. I've got to take the heater out. So the next thing in our little jamboree, now I've got the tunnel out, I'll give you a couple of little tips. Disconnect the fuse box. Just pull the fuse box out of the way, and then you've got lots of room to get the screws around the tunnel. And also, there's a diaphragm tunnel panel on the front too. Take that off as well. Take all the screws out, you know, and just pull. It gives you a little bit more room to manoeuvre. It's so much more easier. So, next thing, I think I'm going to sweep the floor up. The next thing I'm going to do is disconnect these linkages here, because you can see here now the height of the pin here. When we tip the gearbox down, it invariably hits the top of the tunnel. We don't want that, so all I'm going to do is take those 4 bolts off the top of there, take the linkages off, because I've got to take them off anyway to do the transfer case seal, and it should be good. And then you see the angle will allow the shifter to clear, but this hasn't got a hope in hell's chance. Not unless you're with somebody else. I can't keep emphasising that, but I haven't got anybody to help me. So yeah, let's get on with that then. Having got all the top disconnected and out the way, we're now under the vehicle and we can see one or two things that needs doing. You can see that suspension bush is gone, and also if you look very closely at the tie bar bushes there, they've all perished. That one's really bad look. You know, see how it's gone all gummy look. Never seen that before. Ow, I keep banging the head of my frame. One of the jobs we have to do is to replace the little O-ring in there. It's an awful lot of work to replace the O-ring, but we can do 2 or 3 things at the same time. The owner's complaining about an oil leak out the engine. Now, I don't know if we can see clearly under there. I'm trying to get my lights under, but that oil pan, the sump is dry. But look around here. There's an oil leak here, and an oil leak there, and here. Now the thing is, where's it coming from? Because everything in the top of that engine is really, really dry. So it's not out of the usual suspect places. But look, see, he's got a bung in there. That shouldn't be in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack it off, and we're going to see if there's any oil in that bell housing. Here we go. This should be dry. Well, what do you know? I am right again. I said it was a crank seal, and lo and behold, that's why you should never put a bung in the hole, because if it's leaking, that oil will then get onto the clutch. And you can see how much was there. Why I was suspicious was there was oil coming out of this clutch, but nothing above it. And there's only a sort of half-assed gasket up there holding it on. So oil's been splashing around inside and come out of its place of release resistance and dropping down onto here. So it's a good job we're going to take all this lot out, but don't drive around. It's easier. It's better if you drive around without these wading plugs in and let it drip out. But it's definitely crankshaft seal. And it won't be the seal that's leaking, it'll be the actual holder that's leaking. It's got warped. So we'll take that out. Well, so that's going to make it worthwhile. So that's changed all my plans now, because I am not going to take this engine out. I'm going to work around it. Well, I'll tell you something, knowing that now, I'm going to have a celebratory cup of tea. But I'm going to order a few bits and pieces up. Let me show you around this car. This 90's come all the way from Florida. Not Florida, Florida. That's how they say it, apparently. But the rotors on the back are rusted, solid look. That usually means that the calipers are stuck. And they're the same both sides. The fronts are perfect, but the backs haven't been working. So it looks like we'll have to do a little bit of work on there. Fortunately, I have a couple of rotors in stock. What's the rest of it like? Well, it's not too bad underneath. Now you see, there's the fuel filter. They've kept the fuel filter in there for but they've put a TDI on, and that's a no-no, because those filters are too fine for the diesel. I mean, I know it's down in Florida, but come cold weather, you won't get any diesel to go through those things. So that should be taken out. I'll ask him. But let's go and have a look at the back crossmember, and you can see why I'm concerned. From the back, this crossmember's had a patch tacked on. If you can see. All these little MIG spot welds. But this is the chap who's going to be towing the Sankey trailer back to Florida. And I'll tell you something, I wouldn't be towing anything with this. Let's have a look underneath. This NAS spec towing step has an integral hitch, receiver hitch, and it's bolted on here, and it's got a bolt here, but nothing underneath. You see those bolt holes there? There's no bolt holes in there. And at the back, I don't know if we can see here. See where those tubes are? I don't know, let me move this way, see if I can move this way. There, see, the bolts have snapped off. Bad, real bad. And they've had a go at welding it, look. But look at this. Looks like Stevie Wonder's done it. They've just put a little bit of tin over the patch. Before this does any towing, we're going to have to drop all this lot out and put a new rear cross member on it. That's without a shadow of a doubt. There's no way you can tow with that. Not where it's fixed, because we don't know what's behind here, that's the thing. You know, it's all busted open with rusty, look at it. Yep, and somebody's made this cover. It looks like they've made it, because that doesn't look like the same original pressing for the tank. These look like a TD5 tank, but I think there's something different about these, and I don't know really what it is. Let's have a look. That may be the better. I don't know what it is. There's something different. Oh, bushes. They need replacing. Yeah, I think I'll go upstairs and have a celebratory cup of tea and make a list out of things that needs doing to this truck, because like I say, we don't know what's behind half of this stuff. Alright, back in a minute.